Hi, I'm Kirk Fletcher, and this is the Blues Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Blues Podcast. I'm Big Boy Bloater, and I'm very happy to say I've got an amazing guest here today with me. As always, this guy is a phenomenal guitarist, just a great guy. He's been all around the world. He's played with some amazing people, and I'm very excited to talk to him about it. So let's jump straight into it right now, and I'll talk to the one and only fantastic guitarist, Kirk Fletcher.
Hey, how are you doing? Everything going good there? You keeping safe there?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you? You okay?
I'm doing pretty good. I just recently arrived back a couple of days ago from California to visit my family and be there for the holidays. And now I'm back in cold, chilly Switzerland.
Nice.
It's cool.
Nice. Very nice indeed. So, Kirk, I always like to kick off these things by delving into your history a little bit. I want to know, how you got into blues in the first place. I mean, growing up in California, right?
Yeah.
I guess your school friends were all into all kinds of music. How did you get into the blues in the first place?
Well, the blues for me, I mean, my father, like I've said, my father is a pastor of a church at one time, most of my life. He's passed away now, but for for all of my life, he was a pastor. He was a pastor before I was born. And really, the Southern Holiness Church, Church of God in Christ, that's really halfway there already, because it's really old school and really traditional gospel and a lot of hand claps and tambourines and everybody joining in. So it's really bluesy already.
Yeah.
And then my family's from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So they're very, Southern and they're, quite a bit older when they had me. My mom was 33 and my dad was 44, and he was born in 1931.
Wow.
So, he saw a lot, So basically, they would tell me about these blues artists. Plus, you're at the church, too, and I have really older brothers, too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it was real natural. The blues was always really natural, and I don't exactly know why. I guess it's just something I gravitated towards,
Yeah. Yeah,
so
it's kind of like it's built into us, really, isn't it? I think blues. It's such a primal, rootsy thing, anyway. I think that's what's made it so successful for so long is people can identify with it instantly, can't they? They go, blues.
Absolutely.
I get it. Yeah, it's a music that people just understand. I think that's What when you very first started listening to blues music, kind of under your own steam, who were you listening to? Who were the artists you were going to initially?
Well, it kind of happened, at different times, kind of in a roundabout way, because at first I heard a record that my older brother had, Bobby Bland, and I heard like Further On Up the Road, and I heard my mom talk about listening to him when she was younger, And then there was this radio show called KLON. It's still going. It's just called KJazz, but KLON out of Long Beach, California, with the blues host Bernie Pearl.
Yeah.
So when I was about 7 or 8, I could literally on the weekends hear every kind of blues there was, for the rest of my life, as long as I lived in California. So I heard like Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, and all of the 80s blues and Stevie Ray Vaughan, everything on this radio station. And I would record that, on my cassette tape, my little Smurf Walkman, back when I was a kid. So, I was continually listening to blues like that too. So that's really, it was, those two things that really kind of, just a little of everything.
And how did you get to guitar playing? Was that something that came from listening to that blues and you think, wow, I want to play guitar? Or was it you wanted to play guitar first and the blues followed afterwards? Do you remember getting into guitar in the first place?
Well, my older brother played guitar, and I just very naturally gravitated towards guitar. I was a little kid, and most kids are concerned about playing and, running around and being a kid. And I was just immediately, my brother would play guitar or they would play in church or anything like that. I was just there glued to his every move ever since I was really little, you know. So that's really how it started. Very naturally, I just picked up his guitar when he put it down and just started trying to make sounds, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's funny, there's a videotape of me when I was like maybe 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
And it's weird because this is before I really heard any blues, you know, like just really other than maybe B.B. King on TV or something. But I can remember, I haven't seen this videotape in a long time, but I remember just like playing really bluesy, and I was just playing a church song, you know, it's called Don't Let the Devil Ride. And I tried to play real bluesy and soulful, and I meant it, you know, so it's like, it's sort of like always been there in a way, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How did you get hold of your own first guitar? Because obviously, if you were borrowing your brother's, must come a point where it was like, no, you need your own guitar. How did that work out? Do you remember your first guitar, and do you still have it?
No, I don't. I don't know where it is. But, you know, my very first guitar was, there was this department store called Sears and Roebuck. And they sold everything. So they sold this black and red acoustic guitar. And I guess before I can even remember, I only had like 2 strings on it. And I would drag this guitar all around the house. You know, so I was so young, you know, I had that guitar so young that I just, you know, I always had it. As long as I can remember, I had a guitar. So then a little while later, I got a proper guitar. And that was probably like I think I went through a bunch of Teisco and different things when I was really young. But my first proper guitar was a Squier Stratocaster.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Nice. I bet that felt like, you know, so rock and roll when you got hold of that, right?
Oh, man. And then all of the music that was playing, you know, like on MTV and like on the radio. So it was very rock and roll.
Yeah. Do you remember getting that guitar? Do you remember what the first songs you played on that guitar would have been?
Oh, definitely church music, you know, like everything that, you know, was in the church, like Love Lifted Me, Amazing Grace, and, you know, just so many different songs like that, you know, really. And then there was like the Dixie Hummingbirds I listened to. And also on the radio during that time, early mid 80s was like Prince and, you know, heavy metal and rock and all that stuff. So, of course, you know, 9-10-year-old kid, I'm going to try and figure it out because I don't care about what kind of genre it is. I just want to play guitar, you know.
Sounds good, right? And it sounds exciting. So you want to do you want a bit of that. You want a piece of that, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you remember at what point it was that it started to become less about the church music and more about the blues music? Was there a particular sort of crossover point, or was it just a very general kind of drift into the blues?
You know, my brother, for playing in church and being mostly a gospel guitar player, he played other styles, but he was very cutting edge. My older brother, he had like pedals and wah-wah, all the latest gadgets, different guitars and all this. So, you know, I was always into like other stuff besides gospel, you know, sort of like that rebellious thing, you know, playing like overdrive in church before this whole, you know, rock-based praise and worship music. I was like, we were like all into that. So, you know, I was listening to Hendrix and all that stuff pretty early on, you know. So, you know,
It's good. It's good stuff. Yeah. What was the first sort of blues band you got into? When did you start sort of doing gigs?
Ooh, the first blues band.
Yeah.
Oh man, I had played a whole career.
I know. Yeah.
After I left church before blues, but like, you know, first it started with the gospel bands, top 40, playing with people, you know, and just soul and funk and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then in the mid 90s, I got into like heavy blues. You know, and the first person I think I played blues with on a real blues gig was this female guitarist named Chris Wiley.
Okay, yeah.
And she took me out, to play rhythm guitar and stuff with her. And we both love, like blues, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Ronnie Earl, Fabulous Thunderbirds, and all of these people, so it was cool just to be out in the clubs. And that's where I met and saw so many great blues artists at that time. Yeah. And we're talking like, 95, 96. So, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to talk about, you just mentioned the Fabulous Thunderbirds, your time with those guys. I mean, for I think a lot of people, the Fabulous Thunderbirds were sort of a gateway into the blues. You start off with the Fabulous Thunderbirds and you go, wow, this is great stuff. And then you start going back through the catalogue and realising where it came from. I mean, how did you get into the Fabulous Thunderbirds in the first place? I'm not talking about how did you get into the band. We'll come to that later. How did you discover the Fabulous Thunderbirds?
Well, that was like, they have these things. I'm sure they have them different places. They call them flea markets or swap meets or, secondhand things. And we had this Paramount swap meet. And I remember, during that time in the 80s, like you could go there and find all different kinds of records. Records weren't as, like people were getting rid of records and bringing in CDs, but I still had a record player.
That was a mistake, right?
Totally, right? So I had a record player, barely working, but it worked. And I knew who Jimmy Vaughan was, but I saw this record and I'm like, man, this is old. And this is Jimmy Vaughan, a young Jimmy Vaughan. It's Fabulous Thunderbirds and their self-titled record, but Girls Go Wild. Most of us call it Girls Go Wild. So I heard that, I bought that and like Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs at the same time. So imagine this. I was listening to the Fabulous Thunderbirds and Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs at the same time. It was like, yes, this is amazing. It was no like, oh, Stevie Ray Vaughan's better and Jimmy Vaughan, It was just like, oh my God, this is amazing,
Yeah.
So that's really where it was. I was probably about 10 or 11 years old.
Wow.
And I heard that. Maybe a little older, maybe 13.
Could you imagine at 10, 13, let's call it 12, could you imagine that, when you're listening to your Fabulous Thunderbird record that you'd be playing with that band one day?
Not at all. I mean, I didn't even know at that time that I would even pursue music as a career just because, I didn't think I just didn't understand that. I didn't understand being a professional musician.
Right. At that age, what were you thinking of? What were your options at that point if music wasn't one?
If I hadn't been a musician, probably helping somebody, like maybe like in the motivational speaker or something like that, or but if I hadn't played music, I listened to music all the time, so I probably would have worked in the record store.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Something music based. Or it's interesting you're saying motivational speaker because that's again probably something that you'd still end up on stage doing, right? So, let's move on a little bit. Is the performing part and connecting with an audience a really important part of music for you?
Well, it's one of the really important things because to me, I feel like I have, I've been blessed with a certain amount of ability to connect with people and things like that. And it started when I was really young, and I would just do things and play a certain way to make people happy. Yeah. And that's what I really think is fun about music. And it's really, even during these times now, it's the thing that gives me kind of, it makes me be able to deal with this, all the stuff that's going on,
Yeah.
So it's all a part of it,
Absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit more about sort of going back to the Fabulous Thunderbirds. Now, the period you were playing with those guys, what was it, about 2008-ish, around that time?
Yeah, 2004 to 2007, actually.
Right. Okay, yeah. Who else was in the band at that time? Because I mean, it's a revolving door of players. So who else was in the band at the time?
Well, the fantastic My Little Brother, who I miss dearly, Nick Curran was the second guitar player. Yeah, the first, and I was the second. No, I was the first because I joined first. But he was the second guitar player. Ronnie James Weber, fantastic bass player, friend of mine. Jimmy Bott, Gene Taylor was playing piano. So it was a great band. And the beautiful thing about the Fabulous Thunderbirds for me was joining a band.
Right.
I wanted to be in a band. I was young and I had never really been in a successful band before.
Right.
I played with lots of people and artists and all this stuff, but to actually be one of the guys in the band really appealed to me at that time.
It's kind of like a gang, isn't it? It's being, it's like, you got your buddies with you and you can take on the world when you're in a band, right? Nothing can go wrong.
I was playing with Charlie Musselwhite at the time.
Right, yeah.
And it was painful to leave Charlie Musselwhite because he's a legend. He's my friend still to this day. So it was painful to leave. And we were touring really cool, playing places, that legendary blues artists play. And it was fun. And I really developed a lot of my playing in his band. So that was really hard to leave to join the T-Birds. But I just wanted that. I was young and I wanted the band vibe.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. And I think I saw you guys play London actually about that time. Must have been around that time.
Yeah. Mean Fiddler or something like that, maybe? I
think it was the Astoria, maybe. But,
okay. Yeah.
Oh, it was a long time ago now, right? That was a long time. Like,
totally.
I can barely remember last week at the moment, But myself, big fan of Nick Curran. Sadly, no longer with us. I mean, I was lucky. I got to play a gig with Nick as well when he came and
cool.
in the UK. Such a nice guy and a great vibe. Loved his voice, was fantastic. Guitar player. He just really was in that vibe of that old blues music, wasn't he? And it's
absolutely.
Yeah, such a shame that he left us so early. I think, but sadly, remember Nick, great. So Charlie Musselwhite. Let's talk about Charlie because, of course, a fantastic harmonica player. Now, how did you hook up with Charlie?
Well, Charlie was like, I was playing, actually before the T-Birds and before Charlie, I was playing in like Kim Wilson's solo blues band. Yeah. Like where he released those records, Tiger Man and That's Life and those things. I played in a later incarnation of that band, for a couple of years or so. And then I think the chair opened up. I think John Wiedemeyer, Charlie Musselwhite's guitar player at that time, was leaving to do something else. And then the chair opened up. And, I think maybe between friends and different things, they recommended me for it. Plus, I was really glad to go out and tour. I wanted to go out on the road. I was in my early 20s and I went to go on the road. So basically, he came down to Southern California because he lived in the Bay Area. And I didn't even have a gig that night that he was in town, or maybe he was recording. And then I called up my friend Jennifer Magnus. And I was like, can I come down so Charlie Musselwhite can hear me? And obviously she said yes, because that's my big sister. So it all worked out. It worked out. And I was very happy about that. And it was really fun,
So listen, just between you and I now.
Yeah.
Off the record.
Absolutely.
It's guitarist to guitarist, right?
Yeah.
It can be pretty tough working with harmonica players sometimes, right? I mean,
absolutely.
They seem to play over everything,
Yeah.
How did you get on with Charlie? Charlie being such a legend, I mean, does he know when to back off? Or sometimes do you have to say, man, you're stepping on my toes a little bit, but it's Charlie Musselwhite. I can't, it's your gig. How do you work that?
That's interesting because definitely I had played with, like, pretty much in Southern California, pretty much every harmonica player, because I was trying to cram, 30 years of blues guitar playing into 2 years.
Yeah.
So I would listen to blues music 24 hours a day, even when I was sleeping. So I really tried to learn how to accompany and interweave, kind of, like play wherever they're not playing. And then the harmonica players have like different approaches and different ways they like to play, or they might be influenced by Little Walter or Sonny Boy, or more modern or more amped up or whatever. Yeah. So I would just try and figure out a way to kind of, play basketball with it. So Charlie, so Charlie was really free. He's a very, his timing and space, and he's a very, very, almost like a jazz musician or something, so it's like crazy. It never was a thing, plus he was the boss. If anybody had to change their part, it was me. And that was totally cool with me because it was so much fun. And he just it was just easy. certain harmonica players play way more, and it's more difficult. But Kim Wilson and Charlie Musselwhite, I mean, what can I say? It was it was really easy.
I think you've been really kind of. I mean, I know you said you played with pretty much every harmonica player in the area, kind of thing. But I guess you've played with the best as well. Kim Wilson and Charlie Musselwhite. I mean, that's quite a blessing, right? You must feel pretty lucky. Yeah,
I do. I really feel that. I mean, even playing with like Linwood Slim, James Harmon, Rod Piazza for a summer tour, James Cotton, and all of these different people like that. I really
the greatest names. Yeah.
Is really. I just look at it and I smile because it was a lot of fun. It was just all of it was just happy, fun, no drama at all. Super exciting.
I think that's probably because you're a happy, fun, no drama kind of guy, though. Probably, right? I think.
And the music was fun. The music was fun.
Don't you? Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you've worked with all these fantastic guys. Is there anybody left to work with that you haven't worked with yet that you still want?
Oh man, I would like to work with Los Lobos or Robert Cray. With Robert Cray though, I just want to like jam on a song though. I mean, he don't need a guitar player to play with. It'd just be fun to jam on one of his songs. Just to say, man, I played with one of my heroes. But I have played with quite a few people. Or Eric Clapton would be fun, just because I respect the man. And it would just be fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's talking about guitarists because I find a lot of guitarists are sometimes sort of fiercely territorial, shall we say? It can be tough. Sort of going into work with another guitarist, and a prime example is you've also played with Joe Bonamassa, and Joe's not keen on having other guitarists.
That's cool.
Which I totally understand. I totally get that.
Totally.
I mean, how do you sort of broach that subject? You've played rhythm guitar for the man. You just kind of like chill out and lay back, or how do you deal with that gig?
Well, Joe, that was like. I always joke and tell him, whenever I say him, I'm like, man, touring with you was like vacation. It was like the most amazing, because my role was to make that music, to play rhythm and kind of be like a glue, kind of like play the rhythm that he needed to support him to be able to do his, absolute best. He's going to do that anyway. But, to just propel him into what he wants to do. And I knew what he wanted because we love the same things as far as music. And it was just a supporting role. And that's always just fun for me. So it never was an issue of like, another guitar. It's like, it's his buddy, Kirk. It's like, whatever I'm not playing, you play. And it's that kind of thing because there's a friendship here, so it's like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was just always a lot of fun because I don't get to play rhythm guitar that much anymore. It's much, because I just do my own thing now, pretty solely just that, So it was fun to step into those shoes again and, play all my tricks.
Yeah. I always think as well, it is a shame that a lot of guitarists are kind of like so offish like that because every time I work with another guitar player, I always pick up another little trick, another little tip or something. You think, oh, that's a great little riff there, and it's that sharing of riffs and bits and pieces that kind of makes things go around. And I know it is tough for some guitar players, but I mean, obviously, you're such a nice open guy. You could probably, get on and play with anyone, I think.
I know what you mean exactly, though. It is a thing, and I do sense that a lot between guitar players. And I don't generally like to play with guitar players either. I mean, but the thing is, for me, rhythm guitar, like if I am going to play with another guitar, I want to see how can I make them play their best. I like kind of get off on that. I kind of get off on propelling a guy, and that's worked to my disadvantage sometimes because sometimes I'm too in the background,
Yeah, you make them look so good, and everyone's going, "Wow, he's such a great guitar player." Hang on a minute, I'm the cement here, just keeping this together. It's like,
but it's fun for me. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your records, your albums that you've put out. I mean, how many now is it? Five albums?
Oh man, I lost track, but it's not that many. But I just lost track because my brain is.
I know the feeling.
There sometimes I'm like, "What? How many was that?" You know. But I'm Here and I'm Gone, Shades of Blue, My Turn, the live album, Hold On. And my latest is My Blues Pathway, and I might be missing one or two in there.
I'm trying to count through, and I'm trying to think as well. But yeah,
it's 5 or 6, I think.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark, right? We're close enough. We're close enough. Your earlier records were with labels and stuff like that, but you're doing more self-release now. Is that a conscious thing? Is that just the way the business is going these days? Do you think self-release is better these days?
Well, that's a fantastic question. When I first started, I'm Here and I'm Gone was basically like, I'm the guitar player with a bunch of different singers and I do instrumentals because I wasn't singing, writing songs really, or any of that. And the second record was sort of the same thing. And then the third record was just me wanting to just do everything, everything just go. And I sang 2 songs. And then I had another singer on there, my good buddy, Paulie Sarah. So, I mean, it was like friends, record label people that I knew, and they put out records, and on me, they put out records, because we were friends and, I was playing with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
So, and then I done this live record after a tour I done with this Italian artist, Eros Ramazzotti, because I just wanted to play some blues and let off some steam in the club, And then I done a self-release thing. And really, the self-release thing was, I just thought it would be better to just do it myself. Joe Bonamassa always told me as much as you can do for yourself, you should. So I took those words to heart, And then, because it's like half and half, a label can offer things that maybe you can't do yourself, or maybe you don't have the resources to do it, or maybe doing it yourself, you get more of the profit and stuff, but it's just kind of balancing. And then promotion and all that stuff. But then this last record, I did go with the label Cleopatra Records to do it. So it's really, I would say, if you're going to do it yourself, it's a lot more time consuming, and you really have to release it and think of, promotion and all that stuff, not just a fantastic record that you recorded in $1 million studio and then it just sits there and nobody hears it, so you really have to think of the songs and all that and the PR and all that kind of stuff too. So, it's more work, but it can be, more rewarding too. Just depends.
I think, mate, if you get it right, maybe, I think, when it goes wrong, you've only got yourself to blame, then, haven't you?
Which is cool.
When the album flops and it's like it's on the label, you can blame it on the label, and that's fine.
Man, they didn't promote this thing right.
All down to the label, It's
totally.
When it's
totally.
The music business these days, it's changed. It's a changed beast in the last, 20 years or so. I mean, we were talking about the vinyl earlier, and as soon as CDs came in, everybody started dumping the vinyl and buying the CDs. Mm-hmm. Now streaming's come in, of course, and people have stopped pretty much buying CDs. I mean, CD sales have gone way down, right? It's vinyl's come back a little bit for the real connoisseurs. Do you think it's going to carry on that sort of trend, or do you see like CDs coming back in vogue one day and everybody trying to buy back their CDs? Go, I wish I'd never got rid of that, man.
Oh God, I hope not. No, I'm just joking. I really like vinyl. It's just, to my ears, it's just about more pleasing to my ear and not being so fatigued when I hear records.
Right.
And I don't want to debate about which is better or which sounds better or people like this or whatever. Just for me personally, I like really analog, warm, rolled off kind of sounding stuff,
Yeah.
So it's funny because I think everything goes around in a big circle,
Yeah,
So maybe
you're right.
CDs will come back or whatever like that. I don't know. I mean, but
Yeah. I sold all mine, so there you go.
all of mine are in storage in LA.
Right. I think the thing with vinyl is that what appeals to a lot of people is it's a proper, it's like a ceremony almost. With streaming or something, you can just say to your speaker, play the latest Kirk Fletcher album, and that's okay. You can potter around doing stuff and all that, and you might sort of dip in and out of it, hear bits. When you decide to put a vinyl record on, you have to kind of like make time for it, get it out of the sleeve, put it onto the machine, sit there and watch it, and kind of you're so much more kind of connected to it because you're not distracted by anything else. You've got to make time to do it. And I think it's that thing that really appeals to people with the vinyl. So I don't see that going away again now.
Yeah.
I think people realise that they've missed that and lost that art of. I saw an article on it the other day, The Art of Deep Listening, I think it was called, so it's, which is great for musicians. That's what we want people to do, isn't it? We want people to get lost in a record for that half hour that it lasts or 45 minutes, whatever it is. And, you don't really want them to put it on your CD and start doing the vacuum cleaning to it and, missing bits and all that. And think, I spent hundreds on getting that guitar tone right, and you're just covering it up with a vacuum cleaner.
Totally. It's crazy to add to what you're saying, and absolutely, totally, positively agree. I think in today's times, I really kind of look at it both ways. I look at the album because I'm really from that thing, and also the Spotify thing. Like Spotify, people's attention span is just really, really, really short. Really short. The first minute or two, you have to get them in. So a lot of times I'll think about Spotify and I'll think about what can I put as the first song to really get them in, as well as what would be cool on the record too. So when you play that first thing, you want to do impact and you want to give them something right away, because Spotify, whether we like it or not, is here. And it's probably going to be around for a while too. So, yeah.
I guess so, mate. Hopefully they're sorting out the artists a little bit better, but
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's a can of worms we don't need to open today, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But speaking of Spotify though, I think it's also makes people, it's almost devalued music a little bit, because music it's consumed so fast now. People listen to a track and they want another one and another one and another one.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days where you would get that vinyl album and you might have had to saved up your pocket money to buy this album. You were so excited about it. You haven't even heard it before you bought it.
Yeah.
You take it home and you put it on the record player and you listen to it, and then you listen to it again because that's the album you had. Yeah. Now people are like, play that track. Okay, I've heard that track. Let's move on, get the next one. It's just such a high turnover. I mean, wow, it's making, in some ways it's great because people are listening to lots and lots of music, but it makes you think, wow, it's just.
Well, in my time, I sound so old now. In my time, it was like cassettes, so it's the same deal. You play the cassette, you save up all your money to get the cassette or the single or whatever, and you play that and you have to turn it over, and it's like you kind of just tend to listen to the whole thing more because you don't really fast forward over, it's like you just listen to the whole thing.
It was harder with the cassettes, right? Because you had to judge it exactly right in the right place. So if there was another track that you didn't really like that much, you just would listen to it anyway because it wasn't worth messing about with, right? Yeah. Now they can just go skip the next track and it's gone. Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think that made a lot of musicians lazy, though, isn't it? Because, I think a lot of pop bands especially, they'd have a big hit and then they put out an album and the album was filled with like maybe 2 good songs and the rest of it was filler, but they knew that people would have to listen to the whole bloody thing just to hear the 2 big hits, so... I guess that has made things a bit better now, people.
I never thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. Wow. Let
me ask you about songwriting. How does that work out for you these days? Are you writing more now, or is it something you want to do more of, songwriting? How do you feel about it?
I'm like always the reluctant songwriter for many different reasons. Some about never thinking my songs were good enough. The people I was around were like not really songwriters. So I was hanging around more guitar players that didn't write songs as much. Just all different kind of things. I'm not blaming anybody, but I just was the reluctant songwriter. And I didn't have the confidence to write songs and things like that for a long, long, long time, mostly my whole career. And, but I always kind of wrote down little things, and I was always putting music to friends' songs. I was always, like even Kim Wilson on the Painted On record, we sat there and he sang lyrics and stuff, and I put some guitar and stuff to it or whatever. But songwriting to me has become a way now, being in my 40s, it has been a way to really express myself in the way that I really feel is almost one of the most important things, So I'm still a baby at songwriting, but it's definitely, I feel there's improvement with the last 2 records. I feel like, now if I collaborate even with somebody songwriting, I actually have a bunch of lines instead of, I got a title or I got this, or I got a bridge to, like maybe you can come up with a hook or, like now I'm starting to feel like, I can collaborate, I can write my own songs and really express myself. And really, I'm starting to find out that that's my way of really saying what I feel about the world, what I feel about politics, everything inside the song without sounding political. Just if you listen to them, you'll find out a lot about me, through the lyrics. So that's really cool.
I think that's what people want, though. People want to get a little bit of an insight into you, right?
Yeah.
A musician and a songwriter, and I think that's that's great. I mean, you say you're sort of learning your way, but I think that's always the case with songs. It's always you write a song, and I think I don't think there's hardly anyone in the world who writes a song and thinks, that's a #1 hit song straight away right there. You have these doubts, don't you? And you kind of go backwards and forwards thinking, is it just a pile of crap, or is it actually got something? I think it's good. I think it's really interesting when people do start writing songs and you start getting a little bit of their character coming through. That's great. Yeah. I want to ask you about Switzerland.
Yeah, sure.
Because now I was speaking to Eric Bibb the other day.
Yeah,
and he's living in Sweden now.
Oh, cool.
Me myself, I've moved from the UK and I'm living in France now.
Nice.
There's a lot of musicians moving around these days. What brought you to Switzerland?
Well, I fell in love with a young lady, and she was
the old story, eh?
In Switzerland, and my daughter was going to college at that time. So I felt that, that was a good time to maybe move to Switzerland so we could be in the same place instead of long distance love,
Yeah.
Plus, I've played in Europe so much, and I was on tour a while ago in Italy, for a year. So I start to kind of understand, Europe a little bit more at that time. So it was, plus I'm kind of that person. I don't know if this is a good thing, but I'm sort of like wherever I, lay my hat is my home kind of person.
Right, yeah.
So I really can kind of just, I kind of, LA is still very dear to my heart, and I still go there on a regular basis, as much as I can now, but or wherever, so I don't really feel like the two places are that far apart. They are, but they aren't,
Right. Yeah.
Because I've traveled for a lot of my life. So
yeah,
it's cool.
So you're not missing the States too much at the moment, right?
Well, yeah, I feel, bad for a lot of my family and friends still in the States. So it's, it's like, wow, So it's mixed emotions, I guess. The best way for me to say it is really mixed emotions, because the States are always my home and I still go there often. So it's like, oh, man, kind of heavy, So, yeah, it's crazy.
It is. It's a crazy world we're living in for sure.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, let's talk about that a little bit as well, because right at the moment, at the time of the recording of this podcast, we're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm sure that hasn't escaped anyone's notice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's affected the music business massively, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, it must have affected you in quite a few ways, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And it's funny because it's not all in a negative way either.
Right. Okay.
It's like, I mean, like kind of when everything went crazy, March, I was like, oh man, this is devastating. And I was in a funk for many, many months, and I had things planned like I'm sure a lot of us did, and I just didn't know what to do or where to turn because I was coming, into this pandemic, like thinking the old way Kirk, thought, oh man, another obstacle, the blues, it's like these obstacles. I'm a musician and obstacles. And they're always trying to keep a good musician down and everybody, and it's just all messed up and all of these things play out in your head. But, it was like growing pains too. It was like, man, I really had to change my perspective on the things that what am I about? What why do I do this? What excites me about it? Is it playing in front of people or is it just blues? Is it music that excites me? What's the most important thing? And really find that out, So I had a lot of, really heartfelt thoughts with myself, and I feel that, after a while I started doing, because I'm always, the blues is pretty much built on making something out of not much or nothing, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm like, man, I'm still Kirk Fletcher and I still love music and I'm still going to talk about it. And I still love blues and my blues pathway and everything. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start doing YouTube videos, not for anything monetary or I just want to start doing it, talking about the things that made me excited. And I'm like, and it just went on and I just done one every day. And it started to just change my whole thought process. And I'm like, man, I want to come out of this better than I was before. Right, so now my New Year's resolution is to like learn 30 classic blues songs that I didn't know, or maybe I knew how to play them, but didn't know the words, the lyrics to them. Right. And I noticed I've already started since I've been home on one song by Percy Mayfield. And as I write the lyrics down to memorize them, I write the lyrics down and I go, wow, he said this instead of that, this word, and it has more meaning. Just a single word makes the whole lyric change. And he chose to use that word. So I'm like, whoa, this is going to influence my songwriting. This is going to influence my confidence walking on stage, any stage, and being able to play a shuffle and know all of these different blues songs. So I'm going to just keep going. So hopefully I can break some bad habits of being lazy and not learning a bunch of songs,
Yeah.
Because I want to have a bunch of songs and be able to learn songs faster. This is always my, sort of, that's the thing that I do that's not so great, and that'll, influence my singing in all of these things, songwriting and everything. So you see, I'm very excited about this.
Yeah.
And it boils down to music,
I've heard a lot of musicians say the same thing. I mean, obviously our sort of main stream of revenue has could be completely cut short. There's no gigs to be had anywhere. It's just that's but so many people have gone, and it's brought out the creativity in them. They've found different ways of doing things, like you're saying, you're doing your YouTube thing. People will do live streams and they'll start writing. I've seen people collaborating on Zoom, doing writing like that, and with people that they might not necessarily have got together with beforehand. So it's this sort of adversity that almost makes the creativity flow, and I think that's great. It's important to see it positively, and I can see from you that you've really embraced the positive side of it. That's fantastic.
Even if I didn't want to.
You had no choice, right?
Because at first I was like, oh man, this is terrible. Like everybody else,
Yeah. Let's very quickly talk a little bit about guitars.
Sure.
Are you particularly into? You said right early on in our little chat that your brother was really into all the gadgets and the pedals and all the kind of bits and pieces. Have you got that love as well? Are you into all the bits and pieces and having loads of different guitars and all that? Or are you just like, do you know what? It's just my tool and it's just the thing that I take to work. Which way do you go on that? It's usually two camps.
I'm all about guitars. I love great sounding guitars. Whatever, if I pick up a guitar and it speaks to me, it could be anything. It could be a hot pink Kramer. If it speaks to me and has a sound, I'm like, whoa, this has a sound. But gadgets, I'm just not. I just I love pedals, and I know that there are certain things, that I need, like reverb, or, if an amp doesn't have reverb, I need a reverb pedal or a big reverb tank or a wah-wah or a phaser or something. But really, if you give me a great guitar and a nice clean amp, tube amp mostly, I'm at home. I'm so at home. So gadgets, I went through that phase, with gadgets and learning about them. But now I'm just sort of like, I like the natural sound of the guitar. It's fun.
Do you have a favorite guitar these days that you play?
No. I mean, like, I have a desert island guitar like that, a Fender Stratocaster is my desert island guitar, just because that's what I learned how to play on. That's what I spent the most time, and I love it. And I feel like I could be comfortable walking into any situation. Oh, I got my Strat. I can make it do whatever I need to do. It's like my toothbrush or whatever, but I love Gibson 335s too. I've been playing PRS guitars for the last few months, and there's beautiful things that I love about those guitars that it's like stepping in a whole new world almost, with the sustain and the playability and the tuning and all of this stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's okay. I had to get over the vintage thing a little bit and just embrace sustain.
Yeah. Why make it harder for yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. B.B. King said this.
Yeah, and he should know, right?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. Kirk, I always like to finish these things up with a special question.
Absolutely.
And I want you to imagine we're in the future.
Yeah.
Way in the future. And the world is actually quite a nice place now. It's pretty good. Everyone's kind of getting along, and it's, we're doing good. We have a world president who sort of makes sure everything runs along smoothly and keeps things going, and it's great. We're having a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Until we get the terrible news that in 3 days' time, an asteroid is going to hit the Earth. This huge, ginormous asteroid is going to hit the Earth and is going to completely wipe it out. There'll be nothing left at all. It's just going to be completely gone.
Mm-hmm.
So the world president gets on the telephone to you and he says, Kurt, we've got a special job for you, man. We said we're going to have a huge world party. It's going to be a worldwide party because we want to go out celebrating, having dancing and shouting and singing and having a really good time. He says, look, we want you to play. We want you to come and play at this gig and put on this show. And you need to bring along a special band. You can have anyone in the band you want. And you need to play a special song as the last song that the world is ever going to hear. So who's in the band and what's the song going to be?
Dead or alive in the band?
It is in the future, so you can have holograms. They have hologram technology in the future, so you can have anyone you want pretty much, So.
Oh, wow. I can have anybody I want.
Yeah.
On drums, bass, and organ. And all that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
well, on organ, I would have Billy Preston on organ.
Right, yeah.
And on drums, I would probably have, like James Gatson or, man, that's a crazy, I'm such a drum fan,
Yeah.
I would have probably somebody like Jerry Jamont or somebody on bass, or maybe James Jamerson or somebody like that, on bass. And I would have background singers too, like
absolutely, yeah,
Aretha Franklin and like just, on that level of singers, Shaka Khan and like all these people would be like my background singers. Then I would have Quincy Jones like conduct the orchestra,
Yeah.
And like it would be super like the, fantastic horn section and everything. I can't think of who would be in the horn section, but, and the last song would probably be, it would be one that comes to mind is like Going Down Slow. It's one of my favorite songs,
Yeah.
Or
That's
like
great, right?
Last Night by Little Walter, I Lost the Best Friend I Ever Had, something like that. Or, just some really just blues, just one of those songs that make you go, damn.
Yeah.
Just like, the heart-wrenching type blues, because that's really, when it's all said and done, other than maybe a gospel song, but it would be one of those kind of songs,
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, out of my own songs, I don't know.
I think considering it's the world is about to come to an end, I think Going Down is quite appropriate, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of saying it in the words, isn't it?
Going down slow,
Yeah.
Please write my mother and tell her the shape I'm in, the world's in,
Exactly,
I mean, something like that would just be like, ooh, I love songs like that,
Yeah. That'd be a great one. That would be a great party for sure.
Yeah. Billy Preston. Wow.
Yeah.
Woo, Oregon.
Yeah. Love it. I hope I'm there to see it. That's all I can say.
Oh, man.
Kirk, it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for being here on the Blues
you.
Podcast.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
I'd like to say just lots of positive happiness for you, and best of luck.
Same to you.
Fingers crossed for getting back on the road, and hopefully I'll see you on the road sometime, somewhere soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Take care, my friend.
Take care.
So if you've enjoyed this, why not like and subscribe to the Blues Podcast right now? All right.